So in this episode, I'm going to focus on getting our analytics and likes into play. Right now we have just basically static data for our views on the shots, and the same is true for likes. Our comments are integrated, so all that data is coming back. Each comment, each shot is kind of flowing through the pipeline. As you can see, if you link to the comment, you can see there's 2 on this one, and it will actually just show, which is what we covered in the last episode of how to integrate those in. So this one will be focusing, like I said, on getting the view counts as well as likes. So let's start on the view counts. And for this one, I used the gem, which should be installed already. If you haven't yet, go ahead and add it to your gem list and run bundle install. And the next thing we want to do is hit the command line with Rails generate impressionist. So I will go to a clean one here, run that. And it creates a migration, which adds quite a few columns, or quite a few tables to our database. I can show you those real quick. All this stuff. So you can basically track a lot of stuff on your model depending on what you want to track, and you can specify, and we'll do that in our controller coming up. So with that installed, we still need to run our Rails Db Migrate. If you can type it. And it should rake that into the database. Looks like there's an issue though. Oh, if you run into this issue, this gem's older, so we need to specify the version of Rails. Right now it's specifying 4.2 for some reason. We're on 5.1 in this build, so I need to go into that migration and add this right here. So 5.1. And we can go ahead and save that and then try that again. And we should be all set. There we go. So if you run into that error, that's what's up. It's just wanting you to specify a version of Rails. I don't know. I figured that out the hard way, I guess. So after that's done, we get this stuff as according to the gem. We still need to add the impressionist, or is impressionable, to our model. So our shot in this case will have this. So let's go to our shot model. Close these. And I'll add this at the bottom. Great. And then on our controller, we can specify what actually gets tracked in a sense. So it's an action we can add to show this. It's going to be called impressionist. And you can specify the actions of just show, which is all I want. And then I want unique impressions. Definitely read the repo on stuff you can do with this. You can kind of go to town on what you can and cannot call an impression. But we're just going for unique ones based on these properties in the database. So impressionable. Type, impressionable ID, and finally session hash. So we ultimately want really unique views on these instead of just every time you look at it, it counts it as one kind of thing. I guess your results can vary on that, but that's the way I queued it in. So with all set up, we should be able to add this to our views now. So let's go ahead and do so. We'll start on the index page. So shots index, and we'll go down to the I part here and add this line. It's kind of a one-liner. Link, we don't need a link to, so shot.impressionist count. Let's see if this works. So without anything installed before, we didn't get any data back. So let's maybe view this one, and we can go back to here. see if that worked. Refresh, and there we go. So it's counting for us. I don't know if it'll do it again since I already viewed it. Let's double check, refresh. Nope, okay, so it's unique based on the user. I'll do this one. There we go. So it's working. I do want to add this to our show view too. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Basically copy and paste this line. We'll update it to have the @ sign. So let's verify where it goes in our sidebar here. Add the @ sign. I do want this to be pluralized as well. So pass it through, and also the view. So we have one view on this, one view on that. Great. So if I log out maybe and log in as jsmini, we can go and view this one. It will have the 2, and then that should update on our index to 2. Awesome. So if you wanted to get really fancy, you could do that all with Ajax, so there doesn't need to be a refresh on your page, but that's something for another time. Because we do have all that JSON available to us, and we could just render that stuff through. When you run migrations, Rails generates this Json Builder, which has this partial, which has all those criteria on your post. You can pass in more here. I don't have them all spec'd out here yet, but you can extract it all from there and show it in the JSON. So if we were to go to shot.1.json, you can see the data here based on what's coming back on that JSON Builder. And yours might look like this. That's okay. So small details there. We're not going to focus on that stuff so far. We may get into that in the future though. Okay, so that is the Impressionist gem. It kind of does all the hard work for you. Next we'll be doing the likes. So we're going to use a new gem for that called Access Votable. And I'm going to log in as my other user. This one will be a little more tricky to get up and running, but it just requires a bit more code is the only thing, and a few different new routes that we'll need to kind of make this request happen. Access Votable, I don't know if it's out there as that. Access Votable might be called something else now. Oh, this is it. Okay, so we have it installed already because in the beginning I installed all the gems. If you haven't, go ahead and do that and do a bundle install. And then we need to generate our migration for this. So we can go ahead and do that. Rails generate access votable, and we can just check out what it actually did there. Basically makes all these associations, polymorphic ones, cool, and tons of other stuff. So this has an older migration too. I don't know that we need to set a 5.1 in there, but we'll know soon enough if we do. So Rails Db Migrate. If it gives an error back, we'll know why. It worked. Okay, cool. Okay, so we did that. Now we can add our access votable to our models. So our shot's going to be the one that's access votable. So we'll go back to that. Close this. Shot X as votable. So it doesn't really tell you in the documentation like how to actually initiate this with like a link and a route. But if you do some Googling, there are some Stack Overflow articles that kind of point you in the right direction. This is kind of one of those use cases for me. So the user is going to be the person that is acts as voter. And then we need to actually adjust our controllers as well. So I'm going to go to the shots controller, and we're going to create some new actions that allow this stuff to really work. So let's first create them. I'll just put them after the destroy. I'll put a like and def unlike. So a like will use this gem to kind of do its stuff. So we'll be doing @shot liked by current user, and we'll respond to do format format.html, and here we'll redirect back fallback with a fallback location. So you might find in articles you Google, if you Google something like this, it'll just say redirect, and then you just pass in back. That doesn't work in Rails 5. This is the new way to do it. So if you're looking for that, this is the ideal method. So format. So if you were to do this in Ajax land, you can render this stuff as well. I'm just going to put layout false. And we'll kind of just copy this for the unlike. And call the unliked by current user. Basically the same thing. So it's just a different method on the gem. It has all these things available to us. So read that. There's quite a bit you can do with it if you really want to get fancy. I'm just literally making a toggle for liking and unliking stuff, kind of like Facebook likes if you're familiar with that. So we have our model set up, our controller set up. We have the actions in here, but I want to actually authenticate those as well. I don't want anyone who's not logged in to be able to like, so we can pass those through. Actually, we can pass those through for both of these. And I passed them through on this one because I actually wanted to I need to find the shot first before I do this method on it. So either the unliked or liked. And if you pass it through on the before action, you don't have to write that typical @shot equals shot.find, basically this thing right here. It's doing that for us. So we don't even need that code. So that's great. Okay, so with that in place, I think we're set. We can start adding this stuff to our view. We'll know soon enough if it works or not. So in our index view, let's start there. And this is going to require a little bit more code because we're going to do some checks, so to speak, first if the user's logged in. So I'm going to actually just omit this stuff for now and rewrite it. Actually, I won't. I'll keep that heart and the vote count one, but the link to will go away for now. So first we need to check if the user's logged in. So we'll do user signed in with a question mark and end it after everything here. So then if they are logged in, I want to check if they're the current user. And then if they liked the shot. So if they like the shot, we want to link to a specific route, which we'll need to add. So unlike shot path This will be passing, since we're on index, we can just pass in shot without the @ sign. Oops. And that'll be a block. And on that block, the unlike will have a method of put. And then a class of unlike shot. And a do to keep that block going. So here we get the shot. And then we can actually grab the vote count at this point too. So we can do shot dot get likes dot size. So it'll display the number to the right of the heart is what I'm after there. So this is if there is a like. So then we also need to check if there isn't a like, or is it unliked, so to speak. We'll actually do an else. So if current user likes shot, and we can do else. And then another end. This is where it gets confusing. So if the user liked the shot, we're going to show this stuff. And that means they can unlike it. And if they don't like it, we can show quite similar block, but it's going to be a liked like shot path. Same method, put, and then the heart. And this actually, if it's already liked, we want it to have this class on it, which basically says it's pink, in this case, the primary color. So if it's liked, the heart should be pink. And then we're going to get the same shot, get likes there, and then we have the end. So that's great. And then for the big if up here, if the user isn't signed in, we need an else. And this will be kind of the same scenario for like shot path. Yeah, basically the same code. That could be cleaner, but this is what I ended up with. You guys can go ahead and refactor that if you want to. Double check I have everything here. I think so. Okay, so we still need to actually add those routes to our config routes file. So let's do that before we forget, because that's a big component here. So resources, we do this thing called member do. And basically for these different routes, they're routes that aren't RESTful in a sense. So you can just put these in willy-nilly. I want to do one that's called like, and then it's going to go to shots hash like, and then another called unlike, and then shots unlike. Makes sense, I think. Great. So with that updated, I definitely need to restart the server. So I'll do that. And we can see if we get any errors on our home page now. And we don't. So great. I think I can go ahead and like this shot, and there it went. Cool. So let's say I like this one too. At the very end, it'll reload the page for us. That's not quite asynchronous. If you notice, the browser's doing a big refresh. That could be all done with Ajax or something like that. If you want to code that out, that's up to you. I'm sure it wouldn't be terribly hard, but yeah, I'm just showing you the functionality at this point. So let's go ahead and add it to our show view as well, just to get that synced up. And I might be able to copy and paste some of this over. Let me verify what I'm working with here. So I've got the heart. Let's just kind of delete this for now. I might grab this whole block and do what we did. Okay, and then I can indent this a little better. So on our vote count, basically all the shots you see need to be this. So let's make sure that's first done. Okay, so that's good. The next thing we need to do is pluralize everything like we have been. So on the span, I'm going to actually do that in this case. So pluralize the size, and then the key term here will be likes, or just like. So I can just honestly copy that for all these. Oops, I copied instead of pasted. And let's see if this works. One like, cool. It looks like the stuff there isn't quite rendering with the right styles. I'm not sure what's going on to make that work, but that is working. So if you wanted to not have so much code in these files, you can make as many partials as you want in the views directory. That's up to you. I just kind of left it all in just so it's clear and easy to understand what's going on here. So let's go back to the browser. I think, guys, we are pretty darn close. So if I were to add a comment here, it should update there. Let's do my name, whatever. Cool. Nice colors. There we go. One comment. Awesome. So if I unlike it, it should go to 0. It looks like some style conflicts are happening. I might tweak those before I go ahead and share those with you guys. But all in all, we've got the app built out. So awesome. We can go ahead and like stuff. Different users can show and hide. Like if I'm logged out, those likes are still there, but you can't see that active class. So that's nice. One last thing before I finish is on the homepage, it would be nice to display like a hero, kind of like Dribbble does. So we can maybe add that next just as a nice to have. Definitely not required. Do that in the index page. I actually made this a partial, so I'm going to just do that again. And I called it hero, so let's just add a new file called hero with underscore ERB. So I only want this to display if the user signed in. So first we'll do a big, if the user isn't signed in, we'll display this stuff. If not, then if they are signed in, then we won't display this. So just a section dot hero is dark and hero body and container with the class has text centered and h1.title dot is size 5. And it'll be, what are you working on? I stole this from Dribbble site, so it's not anything I made, but has text gray light Dribbble is where designers get inspired. And hired. So that's that, and we have another content div. This is just kind of a call to action to sign in. Obviously on Dribbble, it's not, you have to like get invited, so the whole methodology isn't quite the same, but for our sake, this makes some sense. Though if you ever want to have invite only, Devise comes with a cool, it doesn't come with it, but there is a cool extension that it's called Devise Invitable. That allows you to kind of mimic exactly what Dribbble does. So that's something that maybe Google. Great. So if all goes well, this should display on the front end. Looks like I have an error. Render hero. Oh, I don't want this to actually output. And it should be an if. New user session path. I think I spelled that wrong. Oh, that's because I put news. There we go. So if you're not logged in, you'll see this little banner to start with. I added some custom class or some custom color to make it a bit darker than our header. Do what you want there. If you want to follow along, do something different, it's up to you. If I sign in, it should go away though. So there we go. Awesome, guys. So I think that wraps up this series. That was kind of a full spectrum app, so to speak. There's tons more you can do to just whittle this away and add more features. Obviously, the show page is a little limiting in terms of what Dribbble has on their actual site. Like there's a color generator and tags and user accounts, all that stuff is all in play. Like I didn't create the actual user profiles, which are a big part of Dribbble. That's something maybe you can task yourself with. But essentially we have the shot feature. One more thing, which I realized I forgot, is we can't currently see the description and stuff as you hover on Dribble's site. That's common, like a kind of a common pattern you see when you look at the profile image. It displays a little hover effect with data on the actual shot. I have the CSS already as I copied and pasted it, but I'm going to add some JavaScript to get that to work. So let's do that real quick and we should be all set. So on shots, I'm going to actually add a new method down here called hover. Yeah. And then on this is where I basically succumbed to using Jquery just because it was just so much easier, a lot less code to write. So on hover, I want to pass a function through and we'll get this children and find the shot data div, which is displayed none by default. That's why we're not seeing any of it. And then we'll just toggle class visible. And we'll actually need to initialize that function. And all goes right. This is not defined. So it looks like we might need to add Jquery to our gems. So let's go do that. Thought I installed those, but I think I was referencing an old gem file. Yeah, no, it's in there. What's that about? Maybe I'll run bundle again. And let's double check. Oh, you know what I didn't do? That is required is to add it to our application. We need to require Jquery. So let's do that first. And here I'll do it. I'll probably do it below TurboLinks. Require Jquery. So when you install the gem, this is part of that process. I failed to do it. So keep this in mind when you're using Jquery on your side. I'll probably do an old restart just for grins here. Let's refresh that. There we go. Cool. So this data is on our index page, if you remember, and it's getting fed through, but isn't displaying by default through some styles I set in, which is shown right here, display none. So with JavaScript, we're just basically displaying that block with a class called visible at the very bottom here. I think I added it or somewhere in here. It might be on the application. Yeah, right here. So we're toggling that class. That data is getting displayed. That markup is in our view. It's just not rendering it first. So it's this stuff right here. And it's positioned all nice and stuff, kind of mimicking what Dribbble actually does. Obviously a different look and feel. These cards are a little more spaced out and whatnot, but kind of got the thing down, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this series. There's a lot involved. If it was fast paced, feel free to reach out with questions or comment on these videos or on the blog. Happy to help. I'll be following up with the blog post as well as the repo, which you can follow along and grab the code from if you want to. So thanks for tuning in, and I think that's it. Thanks, guys.